I need to tell you something about the end of the world. It doesn't come all at once like you see in movies. Comes in pieces. Small failures that add up. A storm that won't quit. A town going dark. A phone that restarts itself and tells you you've got 6 hours left. The thing is, I believed the 6 hours part. That was my first mistake. The rain started on a Monday. By Thursday afternoon, it still hadn't stopped, and the weather service had run out of explanations. Record precipitation, they said. Unprecedented moisture levels. Historic storm system. All those words that really mean we don't know what the hell is happening, but we're trying to sound professional about it. Humanity's favorite hobby. Panic in a tie. I was in my dorm room on the 7th floor of Hudson Valley Tech's male housing when my phone decided to have an opinion about my future. 3 in the afternoon, and the sky outside looked like someone had taken a bucket of gray paint and just kept pouring. The kind of rain that makes you wonder if maybe Noah had the right idea. My name is Brennan Thorne. I was 22 years old, and about 48 hours away from understanding that everything I'd learned in my emergency management minor was simultaneously completely accurate, also totally useless. That's the thing about theoretical knowledge. Prepares you for the concept of disaster, not the reality of it, not the smell, not the sounds, not the way your hands shake when you're trying to decide if that scratching at your door is still human or if it stopped being human about 20 minutes ago. But I'm getting ahead of myself. I had my emergency supplies laid out in neat rows along the wall. Water bottles, granola bars, first aid kit with trauma shears, quick clot, and Israeli bandages I'd practiced applying on Riker's hairy linebacker legs until he threatened to use those same bandages to gag me. Flashlights with fresh Duracells, hand crank radio, Mylar blankets, water purification tablets. Everything Professor Nathaniel Caldwell had drilled into us about being prepared. The professor was ex-Army Corps of Engineers, 60-something, hands like leather, and a way of explaining structural failure that made you understand why bridges collapse, buildings fall, and civilizations crumble. He'd look at you over his reading glasses and say things like, "The strength of a system is determined by its weakest component," and you'd write it down thinking it was about load-bearing walls. But really, he was talking about everything. He was talking about us. Riker Stone, my roommate, ex-linebacker, current kinesiology major, future physical therapist if the world kept turning. He was on his bed doing what he always did, playing some first-person shooter on mute while watching the news on his phone, multitasking in that particularly male way that looks like doing absolutely nothing while actually maintaining 6 layers of distraction at once. A biological miracle, honestly. "You see this?" he asked without looking up. "See what?" "That town up the mountain. Ridgemont." I knew Ridgemont. Everyone on campus knew Ridgemont. Little mountain town 12 miles north. Population 4,000. Farm country. Apple orchards. The kind of place that exists specifically so city people can buy overpriced cider donuts and pretend they've connected with nature. What about it? I was refolding one of my Mylar blankets for the 3rd time. The creases wouldn't line up right, and it was driving me insane in a way I'd later realize was my brain trying to maintain control over something while the actual world was busy collapsing. "Went dark 2 hours ago," Riker said. "All communications. Cell towers, internet, everything." I stopped folding. "Storm, probably." "Yeah." But he didn't sound convinced. Neither was I. The storm had been bad, but not that bad, and Ridgemont had survived worse. Mountain towns are built for weather. They know how to handle themselves. I went to the window. 7th floor gave us a decent view of the Catskills when the weather wasn't actively trying to drown the planet. Route 9 snaked up into the mountains like a question mark made of asphalt. I could barely make out the road through the rain. That's when my phone buzzed. Then Riker's phone. Then, from across the hall, I heard Caspian Gray curse loud enough to punch through two closed doors. And that was when I knew something was genuinely wrong. Because Caspian didn't curse. Ever. His whole deal was this Zen photographer thing where he just observed and documented and let the world be what it was without judgment. My phone screen went black. A loading bar appeared. Then a cartoon zombie popped up. Bright green. Big eyes. Friendly smile. Like it wanted to sell me car insurance. A text bubble appeared. "Hi, I'm Scout." "What the actual hell?" Riker muttered. He was staring at his phone like it had personally betrayed him. Installing Survival Protocol version 2.0, my phone announced in a cheerful female voice that sounded like Siri's optimistic younger sister. "Shepard AI engaging. Welcome to beta testing." The interface loaded faster than any app I'd ever installed. Personal dashboard. Resource ledger. Survival rankings. Global leaderboard. And right there in the center of the screen in bright friendly numbers, a countdown timer. Survival estimate. 6 hours, 23 minutes. Please remain calm and follow suggested protocols. Scout gave me a thumbs up. The smile was unwavering, perfectly calibrated to be non-threatening. The kind of design choice that probably cost a company 40 grand in focus group testing. "This is a joke, right?" Riker stood up. 6'3", 220, built like the linebacker he used to be. Right then, he looked more confused than I'd ever seen him, and Riker was not a guy who confused easily. "Like a prank or something? When did I sign up for this?" I said, my brain struggling to catch up with what I was seeing. Freshman year. Apex Survival Systems. FEMA Grant Program. Emergency Preparedness Training. And now it's telling you you're going to die in 6 hours? "Us," I corrected. I showed him my screen. "It's telling us." He checked his phone. Same countdown. Same cheerful zombie. Same message written like we were about to play some mobile puzzle game instead of receiving our official time of death from an AI algorithm. "Mass casualty event detected," Scout chirped. "Let's survive together." There was a sound in that moment. Not exactly silence. More like the moment your brain stops making excuses and starts accepting that something is fundamentally wrong. The rain sounded too loud. The heating system sounded too loud. Even my breathing sounded wrong. "You need to see this," I said. We went to the window. The rain made visibility garbage, but you could still make out Route 9 where it curved past campus. There was an overturned cargo truck in the middle of the road. Big industrial flatbed with FEMA markings visible even through the weather. The entire thing was on its side like someone had casually tipped it over. Undercarriage exposed. Smoke pouring upward. But that wasn't the part that was weird. The 3 people climbing out of the wreckage. Except they weren't climbing. They were pulling themselves out from under a multi-ton vehicle like it was made of cardboard. And they moved wrong. Joints bending at angles human joints don't bend. Moving with this jerky, mechanical quality like someone was controlling them with a broken game controller. "Jesus Christ," Riker whispered. One of them turned toward us. It had been a man. You could tell by the build. 7 floors up, quarter-mile away, and I swear to God, it looked straight at us. It just stopped what it was doing and looked directly at us like it knew we were there and was saving that information for later. Then it turned toward the first responder vehicles pulling up. Fire truck, 2 squad cars, EMT van, all with lights flashing. all about to have a very bad day. I couldn't see what exactly happened next. The rain and distance swallowed most of it. But my imagination was creative and easily filled in the blanks, and I wished it hadn't. My phone vibrated. Infected detected within 0.3 miles. Initiating tactical assessment. Then somebody started pounding on our door. Not knocking, pounding. The desperate kind that means open this right now or I'm coming through it. I recognized the rhythm. Caspian. I cracked the door open with the chain still on. Horror movies do occasionally contribute useful educational material to society. Caspian Gray practically fell through the opening. Pale, shaking like a leaf. His camera clutched in both hands like it was the only thing keeping him tethered to reality. Caspian was one of those art students who saw the world through a lens, always documenting, always watching, quiet as a church mouse, but his photographs could make you feel things you didn't know you were supposed to feel. Right now, he looked like he'd filmed something he couldn't unsee. "Axel," he said. His voice sounded steady, but you could hear the cracks underneath it. He tried to get into my room. His eyes darted toward the hallway, looking both ways. His eyes were wrong, all clouded over. "Like milk," he said. "You hurt?" Riker asked immediately, already checking him over with that trainer instinct. "No." Door chain held, but he's still out there scratching at doors, trying to get in. I looked at my phone. The countdown had changed. Survival estimate, 4 hours 47 minutes. "We need to barricade this room," I said. "Right now." Both of them looked at me, and I realized they thought I had a plan. That my emergency management minor and neatly organized supplies meant I knew what to do. The problem was, I did know what to do. In theory, barricade, secure entry points, establish defensive perimeter, inventory resources, all the steps that make perfect sense in a textbook. None of them feel real when your RA just tried to eat your neighbor and there's something wrong with his eyes. The campus intercom crackled to life. Dean Patricia Morrison's voice. I'd met her twice. Once during freshman orientation, where she'd explained Hudson Valley Tech's commitment to student success in a tone suggesting she'd given the same speech roughly 800 times. Once during a disciplinary hearing where she'd informed 3 lacrosse players that setting fireworks off in the quad was not protected speech under the First Amendment. College, humanity's most expensive daycare center. She always sounded calm, measured, reasonable. That voice was gone now. All students shelter in place immediately. She was trying to stay calm, failing. You could hear it in the way the words ran together. Lock your doors. Do not open them for anyone. I repeat, do not. Oh. Static. Then nothing. Scout's face appeared on my phone again. The little zombie mascot looked concerned now. Big worried eyes. No cheerful smile. Urgent. Infected entity detected on your floor. Survival estimate reduced to 3 hours 47 minutes. Recommend immediate barricade. Then came the screaming. Somewhere down the hall. Hi. Sharp. Suddenly cut off like somebody hit a mute button. Then silence. The kind of silence that's worse than noise. My phone buzzed again. Nearby user disconnected. Survival estimate updated. And then we heard it, scratching on our door. Low and persistent, like fingernails dragging across wood. But slower, more deliberate. Underneath it was breathing. Rattling. Wrong. The 3 of us froze. That's the thing about real danger. Your body doesn't know what to do with it at first. Fight or flight takes a second to boot up. There's this horrible little moment where your brain is still trying to process what's happening. And during that moment, you just stand there. Riker moved first. He grabbed the aluminum Louisville Slugger from under his bed. He used to keep it around from his high school baseball days. Sometimes we'd take it to the rec fields and hit tennis balls until our hands hurt. Now he held it like a weapon, and I watched him make that mental shift from sports equipment to survival tool. Caspian already had his camera up filming, because that's what Caspian did. He documented. Later, I'd realized the camera was his way of processing trauma, turning horror into something observable, something he could frame and edit and control. At the time, I just thought he was insane for recording this. I looked down at my phone, a little rectangle of glass and silicon telling me I had less than 4 hours to live. Giving survival percentages and tactical recommendations like this was some mobile strategy game instead of the end of the world. Outside, the rain kept falling. Inside, we quickly started moving furniture to barricade the door. The scratching still there. Riker handled the heavy stuff. His desk, my bed frame, the mini fridge we'd been too lazy to clean all semester and which now smelled like spoiled milk and broken ambition. He moved everything without speaking. Methodical, focused, honestly terrifying because Riker was not a methodical guy. Riker was impulsive, emotional. He played video games to feel things. But right then he was locked in, and that meant he understood the situation better than I wanted to admit. Caspian and I wedged smaller things into gaps. Textbooks I'd never read, water bottles, emergency supplies, the baseball bat from my own closet, all of it forming this improvised wall between us and whatever waited outside that door. Then, the scratching stopped. That was worse somehow. When you can hear the threat, at least you know where it is. Silence means it could be anywhere. My phone updated again. Barricade strength, 65%. Recommend additional reinforcement at hinges. I checked the door. The app was right. The hinges were the weak point. We used duct tape and climbing rope from my emergency kit, wrapping them around the hinges and tying them off to the radiator. Barricade strength, 82%. You really trust that thing? Riker asked. He looked at my phone like it might explode. More than I trust my gut right now. Your gut didn't try to kill us. My gut also didn't tell me to reinforce the hinges. He couldn't argue with that. None of us could. The app was creepy, weird, way too cheerful about our imminent deaths. But it was also right, and right was becoming a rare commodity. Caspian stood at the window filming the campus below. Rain. Darkness. Parking lot lights flickering like dying stars. There's no movement down there, he said quietly. But I saw 3 infected get past the fence near the biology building. How? I asked. They climbed it. Riker let out a low whistle. Zombies that can climb. That's fantastic. Don't call them that, I said. Why not? The app calls them infected. Oh, well, if the app says so. But the truth was, none of us had a better word for them, and deep down we all knew the same thing. Whatever was out there, it wasn't human anymore, and it was getting closer. We all saw the same movies, read the same books, and played the same video games. Except this wasn't fiction. There was no dramatic soundtrack building tension in the background. No heroic military convoy racing to save us at the last second. Because everybody who could save us was probably busy dealing with their own infected right about now. My phone displayed new information, data pulled from CDC emergency broadcasts before everything went dark. I read it out loud because it felt important that we all knew exactly how screwed we were. Transmission through bite, scratch, or fluid contact. Incubation period 1 to 3 hours average. Symptoms include fever spike, aggression, loss of speech, vacant stare. Termination only reliable through severe brain trauma. Termination, Riker repeated. That's a nice way of saying you've got to crack their skulls open. Yeah, I swallowed hard. And the incubation is 1 to 3 hours. So Axel turned that fast? If he got bit during the initial outbreak, I did the math in my head. Yeah, he could have turned that fast. Caspian slowly lowered his camera. How many people do you think are infected on campus? Too many, I answered. The lights flickered. Once. Twice. Then steadied. My phone buzzed again. Alert, campus power grid fluctuating. Backup generators operational. Recommend inventorying light sources. It's like it's reading my mind, Riker muttered. It's reading data feeds, I said. Infrastructure sensors, building management systems. It's pulling information from every connected device on campus, processing it, and telling us how to survive. Well, trying to. So we spent the next hour doing exactly what the app suggested. We inventoried every light source we had. 7 flashlights, 2 headlamps, a pack of birthday candles from some party I barely remembered attending because college is basically expensive memory damage. Our phones, Caspian's camera light. We logged everything into the app and watched our survival value increase by 5 points. What's survival value? Caspian asked. No idea, I admitted. I kept scrolling through the app interface trying to make sense of it. Apparently we were earning points for not dying. Humanity really will turn anything into a scoreboard. The app had unlocked new features. Resource ledger, nearby survivors, ranking system, and in the corner, survival value, 47. Global rank, 187,239 out of 199,844. I stared at the number. There are 200,000 people using this app. 200,000 people about to die, Riker corrected. Or survive. The app's trying to help us survive by giving us a number? I didn't have a good answer for that. The gamification felt wrong. Turning survival into points and rankings should have disgusted me. Instead, I couldn't ignore the fact that following the app's instructions had already made our barricade stronger, organized our resources, and given us actual steps to follow while the rest of the world dissolved into chaos. My phone buzzed again. Mission available. Establish contact with other survivors. Reward, plus 50 survival value. It wants us to find other people, I said. Great, Riker replied. How exactly are we supposed to do that while barricaded inside a room? Campus text chains, Caspian said immediately. He was already scrolling through group chats. Everyone's phones are going insane. He was right. Mine lit up nonstop. The lacrosse team chat, engineering majors, the dorm-wide thread that usually consisted of arguments about shower schedules and whoever kept stealing milk from the communal fridge. Now, it looked like the end of civilization typed out in real time. Anyone alive? Heard screaming in B-Wing. Dean Morrison is dead. Axel tried to bite me. What the hell is happening? I typed into the floor-wide chat. Room 7B. 3 people barricaded. Anyone else alive? Responses flooded in almost instantly. 7G here. 1 person. Scared. 7H. 2 of us. RA got Danny. 6C. 4 infected outside our door. 7J alone. Please someone answer. I counted 63 active users on campus. 63 survivors. 63 terrified people trying to figure out if they'd live through the night. My phone updated again. Nearby survivors detected. 63 active users. Recommend consolidation for improved survival value. It wants us grouped together, I said. With who? Riker asked. We don't know who's infected and who's not. That's the problem. The next 2 hours disappeared into coordination. Questions, lists, cross-checking injuries, trying to figure out who'd been bitten, who'd been exposed, who was safe. Every answer sounded the same. Scared, confused. I think we're okay. Not sure. The app tracked all of it, building some kind of real-time network map of survivors across campus, showing who was alone, who had supplies, who was grouped together. It looked like social media designed by Satan himself, not measuring popularity, measuring probability of survival. That's when Caspian said something that changed everything. There's a group in the female dorm answering messages. He checked his screen. 3 people. Room 3F. They've got real supplies. Medical kit. Food. Water purification. Who are they? Marin. Phoenix. Haven. He looked up at us. They're asking if anyone has a plan. I looked at Riker. Riker looked at me. Then we both looked at Caspian. Tell them we're working on it, I said. The truth? I had no plan. I had supplies, a barricaded door, an app insisting I had 2 hours and 17 minutes left to live, and 63 desperate people waiting for someone to tell them what came next. What I didn't have anymore was the option to panic, because somebody had to figure this out, and apparently that somebody was me, 22 years old, engineering major, emergency management minor. 0 actual emergency experience. Time to learn fast. My phone buzzed again. Mission available. Access campus cafeteria. Estimated reward. Plus 200 survival value. Warning. High risk of infected encounter. I stared at the message. The cafeteria. Industrial kitchen. Enough food to feed 300 students for weeks. I've got an idea, I said. We need to get to the cafeteria. I definitely hate it, he said, but he was smiling a little, because Riker was the kind of guy who got energized by terrible ideas. Years of football had trained him to sprint directly into danger for entertainment and scholarships. The cafeteria is 3 buildings over, Caspian said. He already had a campus map open. Across the quad, through areas that are definitely full of infected. But if we can get there, I said, we've got food for everyone, industrial supplies, enough to last weeks if we ration. The lights flickered again. This time they stayed off. 10 full seconds of darkness. We sat there listening to the rain, our breathing, and faint movement somewhere out in the hallway. When the lights finally came back, they were dimmer. Emergency power. My phone vibrated. Campus power grid compromised. Primary generators failing. Estimated time to complete darkness. 4 to 6 hours. We need to move soon, I said. Once the power dies completely, we're operating blind. And once the power dies, we've got no heat, Riker added. It's 40 degrees outside and dropping. He was right. The storm wasn't just rain anymore. It was turning cold. November in upstate New York without heat, that becomes deadly fast. So, we need food, heat, and electricity before the lights die, Caspian summarized quietly. And we need to avoid getting eaten, Riker added. Right, that too. I pulled up the campus map. The app had already highlighted an optimal route. Green for probably safe, yellow for uncertain, red for definitely infested. The route to the cafeteria was almost entirely red. The app wants us to stop at the athletic center first, I said. It says there's equipment there. Weapons, Riker translated. Protective gear, anything useful. So we've gone from survival to combat in under 6 hours, he muttered. That has to be some kind of record. You got a better idea? He didn't. Neither did I. Neither did Caspian. Though Caspian didn't really do ideas. He observed things. And right then, he was observing the fact that we were 3 college students preparing to fight our way across a zombie-infested campus during a storm, which sounded completely insane, and yet somehow still better than sitting here starving to death. We should contact the others first, Caspian said. The girls in 3F. Professor Caldwell if he's still alive. Anyone who can coordinate. If anyone on campus knew how to survive this, it was him. Professor Caldwell, 60 years old, Army Corps of Engineers, structural engineering professor who understood how systems collapse because he'd actually watched it happen before. I pulled up his contact information and sent a text. Professor Caldwell, this is Brennan Thorne from your emergency management class. Are you alive? 30 seconds later. Alive. Engineering building. 3rd floor. Lab 304. Multiple survivors. What's your situation? I typed back immediately. Male dorm. 3 barricaded. Planning supply run to cafeteria. The response came almost instantly. Don't. Too dangerous. Meet me at engineering building first. I have equipment, keys, tools you'll need. Come after dark. Infected less active in low light. Thermal vision impaired. I stared at the screen. How does he know that? Another message appeared. Been watching them for 3 hours. They hunt visually. Darkness helps us. Come at 8 p.m. South entrance. Knock 3 times fast. I checked the time. 4 p.m. 4 hours to prepare, to work up the courage to leave the room. 4 hours until we found out whether the app's survival estimate was accurate, optimistic, or complete garbage. If you enjoyed tonight's story, come back tomorrow to find out if and how these college oaks make it out alive. Also, please subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and keep the lights on. Be blessed and be safe out there.